Let's go ahead and proceed with Excel Unit C. But before I do, I want to remind you of a couple of things and also remind you that you've probably gotten through the toughest part of the class by now. If you understand the absolute values in Excel, you understand the hardest concept that there is in this whole class. So smile and proceed on. If you do not understand Excel, the absolute values, please remind me during the lab and I will be glad to go over it with you again, because that's really, really important. The other thing that is important, there's a couple other things. When you look at these two formulas, which is the simple formula and which is the complex? I think all of you have that down pretty well. The simple formula is this one. The 3 plus 5 equals 8. There is only one mathematical operation. This one is a complex because there is more than one mathematical operation. And also, please remember the order of precedence. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Or as my grandson says, please excuse my dear Aunt Sandy, because he has an Aunt Sandy. So you can remember it however you want. But that is the order of operations: parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. If you don't get this right, sometimes you're not going to get your formulas right, no matter what you try. And the last thing I want to remind you of is I'm going to drag this over here where we can see all of this, is your absolute values. Remember how you make it an absolute value is your F4 key. The F4 key will lock in whatever cell has those dollar signs in it, or like I like to think of it as anchors. So this will always go to cell H1. So remember, these are relative formulas over here where there's no absolutes. Here is your absolute formula. So be sure that you understand that before we move on. Now what we're going to work on is formatting to make this spreadsheet look better. When you look at this spreadsheet, what would you think about this if you received this spreadsheet from a fellow employee or someone that you were really looking for some good information from? Personally, I would look at it and I would say, boy, that is boring. And the reason that I would is there's no dollar signs, there's the words run over here. Everything looks plain. So let's see what we can do to make this a little bit more format interesting. I'm going to change one of these just because, so I can show you. And here, this is going to be the price. So we can format with dollars. I think we did this the other day in lab, but we're going to do it anyway. You can select a range of cells and format that range of cells if you wish. Otherwise, the nice easy way is if you click on one of these letters, the column letter up at the top, you see here it formats the entire column. So if you add something to that column later on, it's going to format that one, just that cell, just like these cells. So if I format this, I can go over here into the number group in the Home tab. I can format it as dollars. I can also go over here and reduce the decimals so it doesn't take up so much room. If I don't want the dollar sign, I can format it with a comma. So you can do it, the dollar sign without the comma is just comma style. This dollar sign is called the accounting sign, the accounting format. So I'm going to format this with dollars and without any decimals, just so it doesn't take up so much room. We already dealt with how to format through percentages. Remember that you need to use, if it's 50%, you use 0.50. You don't use 50, so it won't mess you up there. So you can do any of this formatting that you want. As far as this title, I would increase the size of it. This is just like we did in Word. Increase the size of it, maybe make it bold, But there's something else that we want to do. If you look at this real well, this isn't centered. So I can take this and I'm going to go to the top of this cell till it changes to a plus sign. Drag it over and see how that's moving that cell. Is that centered? No, not really. That's not centered either. I'm going to put it back. I'm going to show you an easy way. If I highlight all these cells across my spreadsheet, and then if I go up here to the alignment group and I click merge and center, see how that centers it for the entire document. The nice thing about this is you don't have to calculate the centering. It's calculating the centering for you. But take a look here. If you look in the address bar, if I try to click on D1, C1, there is no B1 cell anymore because it's all merged and centered into one cell. Now these titles here, aren't titles normally bold? So let's make them bold. How about if we highlight this range of cells, and we're going to put a border. We're going to put a bottom border on it. Whoops, I missed the bottom border. There we go. So we've got a bottom border. Whatever you want to do to it. The nice thing here, see how these cells do not fit all in one cell. What you can do here is I can take these cells and I can combine them together. Well, look at there. You can't really see all of that. I'm going to delete this in this cell. I'm going to clear the contents of that cell. If you look up here in the formula bar, all of the information is there, but you can't read it. Well, I really don't want to widen my column out that wide because that's not going to look very good. So what I'm going to do instead, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click on, under the alignment group, I'm going to click Wrap Text. On this Wrap Text, what's going to happen, you see there, if I click Wrap Text, it wraps the text all into one cell. So instead of having it in multiple cells like this, see here we have I'm putting it all in one to where it's all there, and I'm going to clear the contents of this one. And now if I wrap the text, you see it doesn't always work real well. Sometimes you may have to widen it. Okay, so it automatically increases the height of the column to fit everything in. There's another thing you can do to make this more interesting. I know that we've seen some cells like this. I want to leave the word member the way it is, but I want to take all of these labels here and I want to tilt them, maybe 45%, 90%. So I select this range of cells and I right click on my mouse. Go down to Format Cells, and if you're not in the alignment group, go to the Alignment tab. And on the far right here, you see this where it says Text Orientation? You can tilt your text however you want it. If you want it, I'm going to put it like it just tilted that way. Click OK, and look, this doesn't really work because the column is not high enough. But if you have this in separate cells, you can see how it works. You tilt your alignment to where you're taking up less room. It also is more interesting. What I would do in this cell right here where it's year of membership expiration, I would probably just put year of expiration. And the reason for that is this is all about membership, so you know what is expiring is the membership. So you don't need so much in your titles. Another thing is if you want to change the font, say, okay, we've got Calibri, and I told you one of my favorite fonts. I'm going to just go back to it and use it again. I'm going to select the font, and I'm going to change this to Comic Sans. So all I do is click up here in this arrow. I did this a little fast. Click up here in this little box, and it selects the entire worksheet. Otherwise, you can be in any cell and press Control A, and it selects all text that is in the One thing that you can do within Excel is if you just want to show part of your spreadsheet, you're showing somebody, but all you want to show them is the candy shop. I can highlight all of these other rows, and instead of deleting them because I want to use them later, I can hide them. So I'm going to right click, and right down here at the bottom of your mini access bar here is hide. See, all of those other columns are hidden, and how can you tell if you've got hidden columns? Look right here, or hidden rows, I'm sorry. Your rows, your numbering stays there, but so your rows are just hidden. To unhide them, you just right click again, you highlight the rows there between the two and unhide. There's all your information. The times that this would be really handy is like times if you were doing something like a payroll spreadsheet and you have their social security numbers on there, but you do not want to show people their social security numbers. So you hide the social security numbers, print your worksheet, then go back and unhide it when you need to refer to the social security numbers. When you have something hidden, it does not print. Okay, we can add comments to this spreadsheet, and this is really helpful when you're working with this. This is the Association of Boise. Let's say that they have 2 Dunkin' Donut locations, and we want to comment on one Dunkin' Donut location, or we want to say why this is so high or so low. There's so much more cost or more income. All you're going to do in this case is you're going to click on the cell where you want to add the comment. You're going to go to the Review tab and click on New Comment. And what we can do here is say sales were low because store closed. Now, if I want to, and when I click off of there, you see you don't see that. Well, how do you know that there's a comment? You see this little red arrow there, the little red triangle, I'm sorry. If I scroll over that, I'm going to see my comments. If I want to always show my comments, I can click on this access right here in the Review tab in the Comments group, Show All Comments. Now, if I want to move this comment to where it can't be seen, I'm going to move it over here and see there is an arrow directed to where this comment should be. But you don't have to show your comments all the time. I'm going to unshow the comments so we can move on. There's another thing you can do when you have a very large spreadsheet. This is a pretty good size one, and you get down here and you can't remember, okay, what is this column for? What is this column for? Well, you probably know what these columns are for. But instead of having to guess, if I want to lock these row number 4 in place, I'm going to highlight on row number 5, go over to the View tab. Then I'm going to go over here to the right to the View Panes. When you click on this, you can freeze the top row or you can freeze the first column. It's based on what row, or what column you've highlighted. So if I want to freeze this top row, what happens now is as I scroll through this, you see the descriptions at the top of the columns are showing. And now I can see all of these locations. If I want to do the same thing, if I have a very wide column, I can do the same thing. I can freeze panes and freeze the first column. What that means is going to be is the first column in the spreadsheet. Now when I scroll over, the locations are frozen. So I can see what I need and have the titles that I need to do my work. Now I'm going to unfreeze all of these. All you have to do is click on Freeze Panes, and I'm going to unfreeze the panes. Now I am back to one solid spreadsheet. We're going to pause here and go on to a very short video after this, but I think this one is long enough so far. So if you have not yet read the Unit C. Please read the Unit C before you proceed on. Otherwise, I'll see you in a few minutes.